You'll find 3 emergency exits, front, center, and rear. Everyone should exit the door that's closest to them into the main corridor hallway, go to the ends of the hallway, and you'll find the staircase that's about midway down the intersecting hallway. Once you get outside of the staircase, you need to proceed to the rear of the building, and that'll be the area that's closest to the 408, and just remain there until you're instructed to return to the building after it's been deemed safe. In the event there's a fire, do not use the elevator. Again, you're going to exit using the stairwells as previously instructed. There are fire extinguishers that are located in the walls. In this main corridor, you'll have about 4 fire extinguisher stations in the walls. In the event there's a medical emergency, I am a licensed DMT and I will be the primary responder. OUC Security Manager Andy Walters will give you further instructions on how to evacuate the building until that medical emergency is cleared. The AED kits are located in the elevator lobby, and we'll find them also in the elevator lobbies on floor 8 through 10. If there's any other type of emergency, just follow the instructions from the OUC security personnel and Mr. Walters. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Woody. It is now 2:04 p.m. I'd like to call the OUC pricing workshop to order. I would like to acknowledge we do have a quorum present this afternoon. Commissioner Lee is not in attendance. Before we begin, please note that if members of the public are here today to address the commission regarding the pricing workshop, we will provide an opportunity for public comments at the end of the workshop. Please stay until that time if you'd like to speak regarding the workshop. Mr. Bullock, I'll turn the workshop over to you now.
Thank you, President Gross. I would ask Mindy Bernay, our CFO, to please come up to the podium. She's going to provide an overview of the electric rate recommendation here today, as well as cost and aided construction fees that were also recommended. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mindy.
Thank you, Clint. Good afternoon, Commissioners, President Gross, Mayor Dyer. Sorry about that. I have my cover sheet. I am here today to present the electric pricing workshop. As Clint mentioned, we have an electric fuel price increase and some service fee increases being proposed. I have been here more than once on this topic. This has been something that we have been working through for the last 18 to 20 months. The chart on the right shows you the price, the commodity price of natural gas. You can see that back in January 2019, the commodity price on the Henry Hub market was $3.25 an MMBTU. Further down on the chart, you can see around the June, July timeframe in 22, 3 years later, the price was around $9. We have settled in between $4 and $6. But this is a primary driver. The chart on the right shows you the total cost of fuel over the last 5 years, increasing from about $250 million to close to $450 million. So these are some of the challenges that we have been working through. We have exhausted our fuel reserve. We have advanced the customers about $70 million in advance of utilizing those fuel reserves. So these are some of the challenges that we have been working through over the last year to balance customer pricing as well as our fiduciary financial responsibilities. So moving forward on this topic, we did originally have planned a electric fuel price increase included in the 23 budget for effective January 1. We are continuing to support recommendation for this, and you will see that recommendation under new business in this commission agenda package. The current fuel price is pretty consistent with the cost now, but we really need this additional price increase to recover some of the shortfall and the funds that we've advanced the customers. We have taken steps. I mean, the winter months are always very volatile for us and the nation as a whole when it comes to weather during these spike times of winter weather where there's a lot more, I would call it severe weather unplanned for limited periods of time. We have taken steps to protect the OUC budget and the customers from this by exercising some initiatives through the Energy Risk Management Committee and our oversight, again, to the Audit Finance Committee, taking prudent steps to really protect customer pricing. This is not new. We have been doing this, but as the chart before showed, really, this is not just an OUC issue. This is an industry-wide issue. It's not just municipals, it's investor-owned utilities. And we'll talk more about the investor-owns and their recovery of these fees on the next chart when I talk a little more about the strategic peer comparison. Here is the peer comparison where we are today and where we anticipate being in January. The $10 price increase allows us to continue to remain within our target of our strategic peer comparison. As I said, the investor-owned utilities do have price changes coming. They have alerted the PSC that they will be recovering what they have advanced the customers beginning in January, and their tentative plans are over a 21-month period. So we haven't seen this yet. We haven't seen the cost increases completely filtered through their price changes related to storm restoration. We have the ability, and we leverage the ability to participate in the FEMA programs, the Federal Energy Management Agency programs, to cover a substantial portion of our storm restoration costs. Those are done outside of the customer pricing because we can leverage that resource, those grant funds for that. When it comes to supporting our customers, we certainly recognize that this price increase puts a little more weight on the customer. We do have initiatives around ways to save on our landing page, our partnership with Project CARE. You'll hear more about that later today, as well as efforts we've taken to enhance and increase our exposure on energy efficiency rebates and initiatives around energy efficiency, all designed to help the customer use less and save more money. So we are taking those steps. Those have been in our plans. We continue to enhance those and have expanded Project CARE, recognizing that on average, it's about $4 to $12 a month additional cost to the residential customer. I will stop there to see if there are any questions before I talk about the contributions in aid of construction.
Questions, comments?
No, we're good.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All right, infrastructure charges. These are very unique to our industry. We have an obligation to serve, and we install all overhead lines for our customers. That is our commitment as a utility to all of our customers, residential, commercial, all of our customers. Many commercial customers, developers, would prefer to have underground services. We charge the developer those costs, and we do not put them in the rate base. So we charge them specific to those developers and those large commercial buildings and developments. They pay those costs directly, and so it's a full cost recovery for that incremental amount beyond the overhead costs. So that is just a little bit of background for the nature of these costs. They are the incremental amount of cost required to put the infrastructure inside the ground, underground services. Again, not included in the rate base. These are paid for directly by the developers. So with that, we have not made a price increase in this area in over a decade. So we have been experiencing price increases related to all types of supplies. We've talked to you several times about transformers, cable, wire, all of the costs around our infrastructure. You've heard us talk about supply chain constraints. This is nothing different. We have taken a look at that here as well. And so our proposal to offset the rise and increase is to increase what we call, there's two components here. There's the on-site charge, which is a percentage of the materials that we use to install the underground services. And then there is an off-site. There are two components to that. The developer chooses whether they want to put in the underground infrastructure, the manhole duct line, or OUC can do that for them. That's why you see two different price structures there. Again, we are proposing price increases around that, a percentage increase on the on-site, and then a KVA charge for the off-site charges related to contributions in aid of construction. And these offset the direct costs of the asset. Again, it's just the incremental costs that we're charging the developers. It's kind of unique to our industry. Any questions?
Just maybe on the very last thing, how would just as a portion of jobs, how often does the developer just install it themselves, or how often do they go to OUC to do it?
I don't know that. I would have to get you that answer.
Just wondering if it's common to go do it yourself, or, okay, sorry.
I don't know, but I'm certainly going to find out that answer for you. If they're on site and doing work, I think many times they would likely, because already they're there and doing the work, they may do that on their own, but we'll do a little research on it. No problem.
Lemoyne may have the answer to that. Lemoyne, is it about 50-50 or what?
I don't have the exact answer, but so these costs are related to the offsite cost of the substation to the developer's premise. So for the larger developments like the Public Park, you typically install it themselves.
Okay.
The smaller.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Lemoyne.
Perfect, thank you. Any other comments, questions?
No.
Keep going.
I have
Okay.
a question there.
Oh, sorry.
So Mindy, I don't know how you actually calculate this, but I would anticipate with an exceeding or increasing number of storms that we have and storm damage that we have, obviously there's more storm damage to equipment that is not buried, right? So we incur cost in the repair of that equipment. I don't know if we're reimbursed 100% by FEMA on that or what percentage that ends up being, but over some period of time, I would think that there's a return on investment in burying some of the equipment just to keep it out of the storms.
So we have not done that actual analysis. The major events that have happened, Irma, Ian, and then back in 2004, we get reimbursed at about 75% from the federal government, but that's really not the obstacle to doing some of that underground. It really is a community impact. Many of the lines are in backyards, the tree canopy, really more about the community and preserving the aesthetics around the community and the areas on the brick streets and the whole aesthetic around that. It is a very large undertaking. While we do new developments, primarily underground, that is the preference today. It is really a very large undertaking and quite expensive because we have done some research on specific communities that have asked that. And we looked at structures like an MSRB to look at for a community to reimburse through some of that, like a CIAC. But Clint has more on that because he's done more homework.
Well, I know I've looked at College Park and it'd be virtually impossible to come in and retrofit there because of the right-of-ways are all in the backyards, and to get in there and actually bury stuff in the right-of-way that we have, or the easements that we have, would be virtually impossible, and all the trees and everything else that are in there. But still, it seems like it's in some areas there has to be a little bit of a return if it's not as hard to do the undergrounding.
You're absolutely correct. In those areas, and we work with FEMA on, the hazardous mitigation grants, the Section 404 and the Section 406, they actually participate with us on these FEMA preliminary disaster meetings and look for opportunities where we've had recurring damage. And are there opportunities to storm harden, whether it be the facilities, like physical facilities like a building, or infrastructure like distribution lines? Actually, in Ian, we had most of the damage was very superficial damage without very many poles or large infrastructure damage. So really more quick fixes that allowed us to reinstall fuses and things of that nature as opposed to reinstalling and setting new poles, which is a little more of a large-scale infrastructure repair job.
Charlie.
Charlie, yes, I was here for Charlie. Charlie was the big one, then Francis kind of came through, and then Jean kind of came quickly in 3 days. But that was 2004, and so we have really looked at hardening the system since then, and looking at more concrete poles, steel, things of that nature, and moving away from the traditional wood pole that is a little more fragile.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
And
was just gonna
Lemoyne,
add-
I hope I answered that as best I possibly could.
I was just going to add a couple comments on the, conversion, right? Converting overhead to underground. There's a couple of other challenges. One, you see that box there, right? That's a transformer. And so generally there's one of those per every 4 homes, sometimes every 8, depending on the design. But at some point, you have to decide which yard is going to get that transformer. So a little bit of work there. The telecoms, right, are riding on the overhead lines. So we don't have complete control of converting. The telecoms are going to say, well, who's going to pay for us to convert? How's this going to get done? So that creates another challenge. And then you have the service line that has to make it from generally where the pad mount transformer is near the road. A service line underground has to make it to the meter on some side of the house. So again, you're tearing up yards, driveways. And so there's just several challenges with converting, as well as, expense. So we continue to look at it, as Mindy says, maybe, under the IRA, IIJA, maybe there's some things from a storm hardening we'll be able to address, but conversions are certainly challenging, especially when you're doing rear lot to front. And those areas have mature trees all the way down the road, or brick roads, or, it's.
But we're always looking at, you do have our commitment to continue to look at ways to storm harden and to take advantage of the grant opportunities, whether that be through the hazard mitigation or the IJJ or bipartisan. And we are partnering with your team as well. So with that, I will close out the pricing workshop and share with you our next steps here, which is we will, as we always do, we will submit our pricing tariffs to the Public Service Commission for their review. The board approves our prices, but we do send all of our rate structure, our pricing structure, to the Public Service Commission for their review. And as I shared earlier, our effective date for both of these pricing changes are January 1. We do have a very active communication plan on the electric retail fuel pricing. We have notified the customers. We do focus on ways to save our landing page, energy efficiency opportunities, project care resources, and other ways that we can help our customers. As I shared, we are looking at the grant opportunities. Some of them tend to be longer term in nature, but we are evaluating all of them to see what we can translate for current savings into our customer base. And then on the contributions in native construction, that is a more targeted communication plan for our developers, and that has been an active process over the last several months. So full awareness there as well. So I will answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
I don't have any.
If you would mind, I just want to add just a couple, reinforce what Mindy said. Again, this is fuel, so it's a straight pass-through to our customer, right? The cost is what the rate is designed. There's no return that's built into it, so it's just a straight pass-through on cost. So again, just a reminder to those that are participating here today from a public standpoint, there's no base rate increases, right? All the other non-fuel costs, nothing is changing there. This is specifically about fuel. It's a pass-through based on cost. There's no return.
Yeah, and like we did in October, we took whatever excess revenues we had to try to mitigate that. We're always looking at ways that we can minimize the impact to our customers. I mean, I know I talked about project care and ways to save, but on the pricing side, we too look to make sure that we're a partner to the customer, to our employees, and take the fiduciary responsibility for both the customer and OUC. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. If there are no extra comments here, that completes the workshop presentation by management, and I'd like to invite members of the public to speak if they'd like to speak about the pricing workshop. Mr. Bullock, do we have anyone here?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no further business then, is there a motion to adjourn the pricing workshop? Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, let's take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. The pricing workshop is adjourned at about 2:23 p.m. We'll now move on to our regular meeting. All righty. Alanda Sims, will you provide the moment of reflection?
Good afternoon, President Gross, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, and our General Manager, Clint Bullard. Consider this perspective. As we near the end of the year, it is natural to want to look back on the past 12 months and reflect on what we have accomplished. This is a time when we can think about the challenges we faced and the victories we celebrated. As a nation, as a city, and as a company, we have triumphed and endured. Yes, there may have been some challenges that tested and touched the very core of our being, whether it was sickness, bereavement, or financial distress. We are not only survivors, but we have indeed thrived. As we reflect on the past year, it is important to remember that we are not alone. We are part of a larger community and can draw strength and support from one another as we navigate the ups and downs of life. So let us take this moment to come together and encourage each other. Let us celebrate our successes and offer words of encouragement and support to one another. Let us remember that we are stronger together and that we can achieve more when we indeed work together. This holiday season is a time to be thankful as we look forward with great anticipation and expectation of what is to come. When you expect the best, you release a magnetic force in your mind, which by law of attraction tends to bring you the best outcome. This is the power of positive thinking. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be devoured. Every morning a lion wakes up. It knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve. It doesn't matter whether you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. So keep moving forward. Let us continue to set the standard and raise the bar as we power and empower the great city of Orlando and surrounding communities. As we move forward into the new year, let us hold on to this sense of community and support. Remember, we are not alone, and that you have the power to endure, survive, and thrive. Let us embrace the challenges that come our way and work together to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you. All right, thank you very much for that. I would like to invite Bill Homlish to come forward and lead the Pledge of Allegiance. While Bill's making his way up here, let me give you his background. Bill served in the U.S. Air Force and Pennsylvania Air National Guard for 4 years, achieving the rank of E5 Staff Sergeant. He has worked at OUC for 10 months, and his current title is Business Process Management and Optimization. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
The time is now 2:28, and I call the December 13th, 2022 Commission meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge we again have a quorum present this afternoon. Commissioner Lee is not in attendance. Our next item on the agenda is consideration of the November 8th Commission meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the minutes and adopt them as published.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much. We have a motion, a second. If there's not any discussion, Can we take a vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you for that. We have no service awards this month, so we're going to proceed right away with the community recognition. Mr. Asbrew, would you like to present the first community recognition?
Good afternoon, President Groves, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners. We are excited to inform you of a very important milestone. As you may remember, in 2019, OUC and the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, or GOA as we know them, entered into a global agreement setting the stage for a significant expansion of our partnership, going beyond the traditional services, electric and water utility services. The focus of the agreement was to leverage OUC's expertise and reliability to deliver and manage a unique portfolio of services to the new South Terminal Complex, or Terminal C as we know it. And these services are indicated on the slide. There's 4 major services: chill water, backup generation, 12 kV emergency backup systems, and floating solar installation. As we have talked, you've heard us discuss that, large customers such as GOA, they certainly have the knowledge and expertise to self-perform these things. But we're seeing a trend in that if they can trust a partner to do this and do it on a competitive basis, that they're willing to outsource some of these non-core services so they can better focus on their core operations. So we've seen that trend, and certainly we saw it with GOA. The first of those 4 projects was completed pretty quickly after the global agreement was executed, December 2020, and that was the floating solar project depicted on the right-hand side of the slide. Both parties knew, though, that the other 3 would take more time due to their complexity. So with that said, I'm here to proudly announce that on Friday, November 4th, after 3+ years of hard work between both parties, OUC officially acquired and took operational control of a 10,395-ton chill water plant, a 28 megawatt emergency power generation system, and the associated 12 kV backup distribution system for Terminal C. Our chill water services, power plant, electric distribution, and substation maintenance teams will operate and maintain the facilities 24/7, 365 days a year, with the utilization of our on-site OUC control center. There are so many folks that we would like to recognize for their contributions to this effort, but the list is so long. We certainly don't have enough time for that, but I'd like to name a few. First and foremost, I want to recognize the incredible effort by the GOA team. These were unique and complicated agreements for both parties, and it really required a lot of patience and understanding. Honoring us with their presence today are Kevin Thibault, CEO, Kathleen Sharman, CFO, and they're with Chris Wilson with the law firm of C.J. Wilson Law, their outside counsel, who played a very, very critical role in making this happen. Kevin and Kathleen, on behalf of OUC, I would like to thank you again for your trust and willingness to grow our partnership by expanding it beyond our traditional electric and water service. Thank you very much. On OUC's side, I would like to start by acknowledging the executive team most involved, including Mindy Bernay, Chris Browder, Wade Gillingham, and Lemoyne Adams. As is always the case, the real work occurs with the folks, the boots on the ground, right? And we want to give a special thanks to Eric Roche, Director of Chill Water Services, Aaron Fagan, Manager of Chill Water Services, Mukesh Joshi, Senior Engineer of Chill Water Services, Millard Long, Director of Gas Generation, and Ryan Cheek, Combined Cycle Operator. They all played key roles in OUC assuming operational control of these facilities. The list doesn't stop there, so I want to make sure that we extend our recognition to all the teams from both parties that made this happen. And as is always the case, the real work started on November 4th. I would like to think that the real work led to November 4th, but the real work started on November 4th. And I'm fully confident that the OUC team will meet and exceed the expectations of the GOA team. This agreement certainly raises OUC's profile among key stakeholders as an innovative solutions leader and partner of choice by expanding our relationships beyond, again, the traditional utility services. And with that, I'll open up to any questions that you may have.
No, we're good.
I would just, can we applaud what just happened? Because that was a lot of years of work. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan. Do we have something from Janice maybe at this point? Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go.
Okie doke. Good afternoon, President Gross, Commissioners, Mayor Dyer, Clint. I do have a presentation to go with, and while we're waiting for that first slide to come up, I will just get started. As we reflect on this past season of fall giving, I'm happy to report that in just the last few months, we have held multiple initiatives to give our employees a chance to volunteer, and we've also had a chance to roll out our 2023 employee giving campaign. All of these efforts really show our commitment to our community and our desire to be a trusted partner of choice. Employees and family members all had the opportunity to give back either through their time, their talents, or their treasure. It was accomplished through 3 different events and the workplace giving campaign, both of which reflect our core value of make safety first, which is really important to us because it's not just about physical safety, but also about emotional and mental safety. We wanted to expand this focus on mental safety to our community outside of our walls. One way the mental health crisis is presenting itself in our community is through Heart of Florida United Way 211's information and referral crisis line. Just last year, they answered more than 11,000 crisis and suicide calls. That's 30 a day, which is really a number that takes your breath away. As a longtime community partner, we know it's imperative that we help our neighbors affected by mental health issues. So with no further ado, let me tell you about these events and the employee giving campaign. The first was on September 24th. OUC have partnered with Aspire Health to create a customized volunteer project for our fall employee event. As you know, we do one each season. Aspire is a nonprofit organization that provides behavioral health care services across 6 Central Florida counties. The project included handwriting inspirational notes and assembling hygiene kits for Aspire's residential clinics. These kits included a toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, lotion, comb, and a pair of socks with a drawstring backpack. 67 employees and family members, who you can see pictured here, quite the crew, did this together over at Pershing, making it the largest employee event at that time for OUC. The result was 1,200 hygiene kits distributed with handwritten notes to those at Helping Others Make the Effort, which is also known as HOME, and the Women's Residential Program in Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties. I also want to thank Michelle Ward, who is a senior web and digital media specialist here, who has served on this board for the last 15 years. She worked with the community engagement team to pull this one off. So we're grateful to her and the team, and to, of course, all the employees and their families who were there. The next event was on the Leadership Day of Giving. As you know, numerous studies, especially those conducted during the pandemic, show that food insecurity is linked to increased rates of mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. That's why this event and the next event I'll tell you about focused on food, because it's a fundamental need in our community. This one occurred on October 25th. OUC again partnered with Heart of Florida United Way on their Thanksgiving project to build Thanksgiving meal kits. These meals help alleviate the financial burden of providing a large holiday meal to 1,500 pre-qualified ALICE households. And as a reminder, ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained, but Employed. Executive leadership and the executive administrative assistants partner together on National Day of Giving to give back. You can see us there together in front of that's before we assembled the kits. So we assembled the kits using all the materials you saw there. It included holiday-themed paper plates, napkins, placemats, children's books, and crayons, and we also did handwritten notes, which was quite the experience. Clint may or may not have made a hand turkey. while we were there. They were very good. The volunteer activity was a great team building experience, and participants got a lot of enjoyment out of knowing they're helping those who are less fortunate. The next event ended up being the largest employee volunteer event that we've had to date. It occurred on November 16th at Second Harvest Food Bank as part of the 2022 Fall Leadership Forum. Every year we hold 2 leadership forums, one in the spring and one in the fall. Participants include chiefs, vice presidents, directors, and managers, plus some of the executive administrative assistants. This one, though, was unlike any that we've ever had before. Clint really challenged my team and I to find an off-site venue that would not only allow us to do the strategic communications that we need to do to ensure the leadership team is informed, but would also allow us to have a volunteer activity to really connect the understanding of why community is such a strong pillar in our strategic plan. About 125 OUC leaders and executive assistants packaged over 18,780 apples, translating into 15,000 meals to help those in our community facing food insecurity. The volunteer effort took place at the tail end of the leadership forum. While we were packaging those apples, I heard a lot of expressions of gratitude. I mean, I heard people having conversations that I don't think we've had in a really long time because we've been, so far apart due to COVID and the pandemic. And people were really grateful for that team building and that connection being together. I believe we all came away with a deep sense of appreciation and the positive understanding of the positive impact that volunteering has on our community. Earlier in the day, we were briefed on a range of topics, including safety and large project updates such as GOA. A key focus for the day was the economic outlook. Mindy gave us that day. And Melinda took some time to talk about Project CARE, which we'll go into a little bit more on the next slide. That brings me to the final event, or well, I should say activity, which is our 2023 OUC Cares campaign recap. It was also focused on mental health. In fact, this year, the community engagement team centered the campaign theme around "You Are Not Alone." You can see the logo on the right. It was very important to them to bring mental health to the forefront to our employees. We believe, and studies show, that strengthening essential mental health services and accessibility to programs helps alleviate disorders. Research also shows that arts and culture programs, like those provided through United Arts, are instrumental in helping people lower stress and anxiety in order to live longer lives. It also allows them to better communicate their feelings, which is essential for mental health. The main recipients of contributions this year were United Way and United Arts. You've heard me talk about other charities in past years, but we did elevate it up this year to the 2 main groups. We set a goal to raise $211,000 in honor of the number 211. And I'm excited to say that we not only reached that goal, but we exceeded it. We reached $214,000 this year, which is very exciting. Really, kudos goes to all of the employees who donated. This will come straight out of their paycheck, either a one-time deduction or a weekly deduction, which is very exciting. And it will go to over 782 nonprofit organizations. And to be really clear, 545 employees are donating. So that's huge. We're very excited. We saw an increase in numbers across the board. I'd like to give a special shout out to the community engagement team for pulling off this campaign. It ran from September 20th and concluded on December 4th. And then as a special sub-note, a total of $21,216 was donated to Project CARE specifically, our utility assistance program. It provides emergency utility payment relief for those who are experiencing financial hardship, and our customers can get that assistance just by calling 211 or going online and filling out an online application. And that is all I have for you. I don't know if you have any questions, or Clint, if you wanted to add anything today. Nope, he's good. No questions?
Great job, great job.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Yes.
President Gross, before we go into the affirmative items, I'd like to make a comment. Having been on the board of GOA and then, here on this board, tremendous job that was done there, because I remember at the beginning how things were, but this has been a win-win. I mean, GOA saved some capital and we are providing a service for a fee. So a very happy ending, and thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the affirmative items portion of the agenda. I do have one request for general speaking here in a little bit. Are there any other requests to speak from the public? Okay, very good. We'll save that for a little bit later in the agenda there. Ms. Bullock, do you have any comments or presentations regarding the affirmative items?
Yes, I do, President Gross. Thank you. I'd like Justin Kramer to walk up to the podium, our Manager of Emerging Technologies. And I will tell you, Commissioners, I am very excited about this project here today. I'm going to try not to steal all of Justin's thunder.
But here we go.
But here we go. I'm going to anyways. And so, when we talk about our North Star of reducing CO2 emissions, and we talk specifically about some of the mechanisms and how we're going to do that, and we talk about solar, we talk about energy storage, we talk about electrification, we talk about energy efficiency. Certainly solar is the renewable energy that we have, right? And we know this is a regional type discussion, right? Some regions have a few other renewables and options. Hydro, offshore wind, et cetera, and we don't. And so we have been working, and you've heard us talk about a few smaller pilot projects relating to floating solar, looking at how to leverage that project, looking at the economics, understanding the operation side and the installation side. And you know that we've done one at Gardenia, and recently, as Jan said, that we had back in 2020 at GOA, we did the floating solar there, a second one. So I'm really excited to bring this project forward here today to talk about a large-scale solar project. And I will take this from Justin, but this is the largest project that we're aware of, a floating solar project here in the state of Florida. So again, we're proud of that. But I think it's important that we, again, understand that our region, and we have a lot of water, and so is there the ability to leverage those spaces, is the ability to, again, expand to solar. And I think this project really demonstrates our commitment to where we're headed. Obviously, by 2030, we have to reduce our CO2 emissions by 50%. I think this is just another example of a project that we're working on to achieve that goal and to really work towards being a leader here in the state of Florida and how important that commitment is. So with that, I'm going to have Justin go through and give you the slides and walk you through the details, again, of what I feel is a very exciting project for OUC and for this community as we work to continue to advance solar. So Justin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Gross, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, and Clint. Like Clint was saying, I'm here to talk to you about our FDOT floating solar project. I always like to start with OUC's commitments and the goals that we have. We have the zero carbon goal by 2050, and we've made a $420 million commitment to solar. And as we know, we're competing with a lot of people for utility scale solar land. So we're constantly looking for other solutions that are out there to solve being able to put solar throughout our territory and really bring those emissions down. And so with that, we've done a pilot project at Gardenia. We started with about 32 to 34 kilowatts of floating solar there. We upgraded that to 70 kilowatts, just understanding different types of technology. One was a string array, one was a microinverter array, just looking at different technologies. And then we did the demonstration project at GOA as just ways to learn and understand how this technology operates, what are the installation considerations, really start to understand the benefits of this technology and the limitations of the technology. And so some of the benefits of the technology is the cooling effects of the pond, so it being close to water, actually cools down the solar panels and increases the efficiency of the solar panels over a traditional utility scale or rooftop array. So we get actually more kilowatt hours per kilowatt installed, which is nice. The floats are made in the USA, so there is a made in the USA component concept to these. And then one of the big ones is that we're not competing with traditional land uses. We're not competing with development. We're not competing with environmental considerations around land. There's a lot of benefits that come with finding land uses that, we need retention ponds. They're out there, they exist. This is a way for us to utilize them for a secondary use case and really bring down, the use case considerations around land. Also, maintenance is a big consideration. We don't have to mow these arrays. There's very minimal maintenance, and with the rainfall in Florida, there's really not, other than maintaining if there's a broken panel or something, there's not the ongoing maintenance that we would see with some of the other arrays. There is a cost of ownership that's lower than rooftop, but slightly higher than utility scale. But one of the things that OUC is really looking at is how do we bring those prices down to bring it really competitive with the utility scale considerations of solar. Some of the other benefits are distributed assets. These solar ponds, or the ponds, are throughout our entire territory. So they really have the ability to put assets that we can control throughout our entire territory. The interconnects are at the distribution level, which is nice because we're allowing ourselves to look forward to self-healing grids and other component considerations. We also have the ability to co-locate storage with these devices, which is another benefit. Storage takes up a lot of land as well. So having the ability to spread them out is beneficial to our grid as well as our operations. And then geographic diversity. So as you spread solar throughout our territory, that actually comes with benefits. This was actually some of the research that we've done recently that kind of led us down this path. But one of the things that we did is we looked at solar arrays throughout our territory, looked at the fluctuations of each of those solar arrays. And as you can see, each one fluctuates pretty significantly. But as we put those together and look at their individual impacts to our grid as a whole, we see that they actually smooth out to a much more manageable output for our territory and for our operations to respond to. So as we've talked in the past about the fluctuations that come with solar and what it takes to respond to those, by spreading the solar out throughout our territory, we can actually smooth some of those curves just naturally through the diversity of the different assets. And this really helps provide a lot of benefits. So again, what are all of these benefits that stack onto this particular technology? And so understanding those benefits, one of the things that we did is we started a study with the National Renewable Energy Lab to look at the actual benefit or the resources that would be out there in our territory for floating solar. So how many ponds do we have? Are those ponds in proximity to distribution networks? What is the cost of installing at each of them? And basically do a study looking at our entire territory and really starting to develop the roots of a roadmap for floating solar kind of in our territory. So each one of these steps, the technical potential assessments, the economic evaluations and land uses, and then finally putting that framework selection around which ponds should we prioritize. And we really want to thank the city was a participant in this. They provided us all of their ponds, the county. We worked with FDOT, the Central Expressway Authority. We worked with basically anybody who owns a pond, even GOA. We've talked to GOA as well, has provided us some information and resources so that we can look and see what exactly can we put out into our territory. What are the resources? And so this is working in parallel with this particular project to give us kind of that background and roadmap. And so really the name of the game is how do we improve floating solar? How do we find a way to bring that price point that we talked about earlier down? How do we find the right economics? And scale is really a big part of that. How do we create the workforce that we need, the manufacturing that we need, standardize the designs so that we're not spending the same amount of money over and over? A lot of the same things you would see in commercial development. How do we do those same kind of things for this and really bring the price point down so it is competitive with utility scale, in addition with all of the benefits, and that full life cycle cost really comes to something that's competitive. And then also bulk procurement and the contracts are a big piece of that. And the standardizing of the contracts is a big piece because negotiating with every agency, negotiating every project, every single piece of land, that becomes very expensive over time. So we want to really find a way to make that work. And so that's where this project kind of came to fruition. Was Florida Department of Transportation, as you can imagine, has a ton of ponds throughout our territory and actually through the entire state of Florida. And so the D3 Energy is the vendor that we've worked with on our past floating solar projects. We were pushing on a concept of standardizing contract language with these agencies. And so FDOT went out for an RFP for a vendor to provide this service across their ponds. And D3 was actually awarded that relationship with them. But it allowed for standardized contract negotiation language for each individual project. So all of their ponds have one set of language, one set of considerations, and kind of going through that piece of the puzzle. And once they were able to negotiate that, then it became our responsibility to look at all of the requirements, build all the technology around it. You know, there may be scenarios where they have to move a pond. We have a backup plan for that. There may be scenario, you know, so really kind of develop all of the concepts we need to make sure we're making the fiduciarily responsible decisions for our ratepayers and build all of that around their contract as well. So again, every DOT pond, we can replicate what we're doing for this one for all of those ponds. Again, bringing that cost down. So here's the location that we're talking about. So it is actually very close to Pershing. It's about 2 blocks south of Pershing, which is really kind of nice. You can see here, this is Pershing up here. And so it's just down Commander about 2 blocks. And funny enough, there's another FDOT pond just north of it. So there's expansion opportunities. But we're looking at about a 2 megawatt array on that site. You can see the details about the array itself. Largest in the southeast, absolutely largest in Florida, and the 3rd largest in the US. The largest actually being out in California is about a 4.8 megawatt array. And there's, I believe, a 4.2-ish megawatt array in New Jersey. But we will actually be the 3rd largest in the United States, which is nice. Distribution level interconnect, really a nice pond. It's very nice and square and rectangular, which a lot of the transportation ponds are. And it provides us a lot of opportunities for expansion and looking into the future, how we would consider this. And so with that, we request a little over 3.7 million for the actual capital portion of the array, for a total of 3.8 million for the total project cost considerations. Any questions, comments?
Questions, comments?
I've been a big supporter of floating solar for a long time, and I'm really happy to see this come to fruition in this way. There's, so much opportunity with so many retention ponds, as you have talked about all the different agencies that have retention ponds. I do have one question that on your cost comparisons, I get the rooftop part, but do you, when you put the land cost into the commercial, we're still not comparable in terms of the floating?
Great question.
Oh, commercial solar, like commercial rooftop?
Utility scale.
Utility scale.
Oh, utility scale.
When you have to buy the land.
If you have to buy the land, utility scale is still cheaper, technically. It depends on the land cost, obviously. But what we really see is that if you can create a scenario, a lot of the costs of the floating solar at this point is the mobilization cost, it's the staffing. These are still one-off projects where they can take one project, they have to hire a specific firm to do that, it's competitive, the whole thing. If we were able to create a roadmap, which is kind of what we're talking about, of how do you do 100 of these or 150 of these, and you create that next plan for the next 5 years, that's where I think you're going to see that process come by. Standardize the designs, standardize the rollout, create the workforce that can build around that so that we can really be rolling these out one after the other. That's, I think, where you'll see the total levelized cost of the project to come down to compete with utility scale. And the other piece is the maintenance. Right now, we're paying a higher maintenance fee than we would expect to pay long-term because there's 3 arrays in the central, or 4 arrays now in Central Florida. You're now hiring one-offs to do that work versus if we had a staffed up concept, something that OUC could support. How do you really build that entire concept around a technology? I think that's what it's going to take at this point. They're putting thousands of megawatts of utility scale out there. If we start to look towards that, even close, I think we'll bring floating solar well in competition with that.
Which is why we're doing the NREL study, right? What is the market potential of available ponds, size, the right amount of solar? That's what that study is going to help us understand the potential within our service territory.
And this also builds on our other studies around the environmental impacts and all the different pieces. Like we've really tried to take a holistic look at this technology to make sure it's a viable long-term solution for OUC.
When you said there were 4 in Central Florida, we've got Gardenia and Goa. Then
Yes.
This one, are you talking? Is it the Universal Studios one?
There's the Universal Studios one is the 4th one that I think of here, and then there's another one just outside. There's a 1 megawatt. The city of Altamont, I believe, has that one. So that one's just outside.
Thank you.
And they came to us and we walked them through that project because we were working very close with them on that, explaining the impacts and the considerations and stuff like that. Like these technologies, as we expose them, they get a lot of legs and start to grow beyond even us.
Well, love the study and love the project because the study will tell us how much can we scale. This is going to be super interesting because the land battles are tough.
Yes, absolutely.
It's good. It's great. Any other comments or questions for Justin?
No, I'm clear.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm going to.
President, I don't have any further items.
Nothing? Thank you. I'm going to check one more time, Paula, with you. Are there any other members, any members of the public that want to speak to the affirmative actions? I'll hold on the general appearance here for a second. All right, fine. If there are no other questions or comments, is there a motion to approve affirmative items A1 through A18?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a movement and a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, guys. All right, we are going to now move into commissioner nomination. You guys probably are very well aware of what's going on here. We're going to be talking right now about new business item number 1. It's commissioner nomination. The City of Orlando nominating board has submitted 3 candidates for our consideration to fill the position to be vacated by Greg Lee, who has provided his notice of resignation to the board and to be effective when the vacant position is filled. OUC Council has confirmed that all 3 candidates do qualify under OUC's charter and state law to sit as an OUC commissioner. Each commissioner was provided with the slate of 3 candidates from the city's nominating committee and has had the opportunity to review the qualifications of each candidate. The board now needs to either vote to recommend one of the candidates for approval and confirmation by the city council, or reject all 3 candidates and request a new slate of candidates. Before I ask for a motion, is there any discussion on this item?
I just like to say that we're very fortunate to have 3 candidates. I've known all 3. As a matter of fact, when Mayor Hood was the mayor, I was asked to be part of the task force to select the city planner. So, like I said, I was able to, in the case of Mr. Grandin, to know him in detail from the interviews. And of course, I know Billingsley, and of course, I know Chicky. So, like I said, I know all 3 candidates very well.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments,
No, I
dialogue?
was quite pleased with the qualifications of all 3. I mean, they all had history with OUC, with the mayor, and some with Clint, et cetera, but their qualifications, board services were amazing. So, great slate. Mayor?
So I'd move Roger Chapin to replace Greg Lee. I do have one question, just on some of the paperwork here. It says for a 4-year term. Is Greg in the middle, and he in the middle of a term? So it's to finish out Greg's term, right?
So we discussed that at Audit and Finance, and we discussed the difference of what we have done in the past where a new commissioner would pick up someone's remaining versus the starting fresh when a commissioner indicates that maybe they're ending their term. The charter doesn't indicate that. So in this situation with Greg Lee finishing up here in December and a new commissioner coming in January, it would be a clean, fresh, new 4-year term. What we did say is if a commissioner were to give notice maybe in the middle, let's say July, the new commissioner would finish out the remainder of that year, meaning 6 months, and then they would then come and get approval for a new 4-year term. Where we found ourselves potentially with Commissioner Lee was he was going to be a commissioner almost 12 months. I'm sorry, almost 12 years. He was going to be just shy. And so we felt like, we couldn't really find any solid history on why did we necessarily do that. And so with discussion of the commissioners at Audit Finance, we felt like, again, 4 years is a good amount of time. And certainly 12 years is really a lot to ask for one commissioner. So again, the charter didn't indicate anything specific, and so we felt like with discussion through Audit and Finance and the commissioners that we would, again, try to help the commissioners not have these potentially lengthy and just carry over. It gets a little confusing also.
Okay, I totally agree with that in terms of the 4-year. I think historically the reason was, though, that you had a commissioner rolling off every year. So you had this year you'll have 2 commissioners that are starting new 4-year terms and will roll off at the same time.
Correct.
But I don't think that's that big a deal.
That's true.
So I would renew my recommendation of
All
Roger
right.
Chapin.
And I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. If there is no further discussion, take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. We have a new commissioner. Thank you guys very much. All right, Mr. Bullock, do you have any comments on new business item number 2?
I do not have any further comments.
Are there any? So this is new business 2 is about the electric fuel prices and the contribution in aid of construction.
That is correct.
There are no members of the public that wish to speak at this point, right, on this subject either? All right, fine, thank you. Any comments from commissioners? Anything here?
Nope.
All right, if there's nothing here, may I have a motion to adopt the proposed electric fuel prices and the electric contribution in aid of construction charges effective January 1st, 2023, pending the Florida Public Service Commission review?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. If there's no discussion, we're going to take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you for that, too. All right, we're going to move on to presentations. Commissioner Mills, will you please provide the Audit Finance Committee report?
Yes, Madam Chair. The Audit Finance Committee meeting was held on December 1st, 2022. And at that meeting, the committee reviewed a recommendation that we're going to present to you today on meeting to increase retail electric fuel prices, $10 per month for the average residential customer, which I believe you saw a little bit of in the previous review. And those are customers who use 1,000 kilowatts effective January 1st, 2023. The committee also reviewed a recommendation to increase the contribution in aid of construction charges for commercial and multifamily developers, which you also got insight to, specific to the on-site and off-site fees. We then reviewed the board approval for the deferral of $14.2 million of storm restoration costs for Hurricane Ian, pending the FEMA eligibility determination and a resolution to participate in the Orange and Osceola County local mitigation strategy plans. Costs associated with Hurricane Nicole were also reviewed, but at this time, no action was proposed. So the committee is recommending board approval for the deferral of $14.2 million of anticipated eligible FEMA cost reimbursements related to Hurricane Ian. The committee is also recommending board approval and adoption of a resolution to participate in the Orange and Osceola County's local mitigation strategy plans, and this is in alignment with the guidance outlined in their respective local mitigation strategy plans. The committee was also provided with the review of Internal Audit's annual risk assessment and their 2023 audit plan, as well as an updated status of the existing 2022 external audit activities, and the committee approved the 2023 audit plan. And then finally, we had a quarterly financial update provided from the Energy Risk Management Committee, Internal Audit, and Financial Services. So the board action is to respond to our recommendation for the approval of the deferral of $14.2 million, and then also board action, approval and adoption of our resolution to participate in the Orange and Osceola County local mitigation strategy.
All right, thank you for that. We need to separate these and do a vote on both of them separately. So let's start with 1A. Is there a motion to approve the deferral of $14.2 million of Hurricane Ian emergency response and hurricane preparedness costs incurred in fiscal year 22, consistent with the rate-making model and the commission-approved operating budget?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you to approve the deferral of $14.2 million of Hurricane Ian. I don't know if I have to read all this stuff again, but maybe I'll do it. No, I don't. Thank you very much. All right, if there's no discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. Now this is 1B. Is there a motion to approve and adopt the board resolution authorizing OUC to participate in the Orange and Osceola County's local mitigation strategy in accordance with the guidelines outlined for each of the county's programs?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes as well. Thank you guys very much. Ms. Bernay, can we move to the financial report, please?
Okay. Again, thank you for having me here. My place showing the financial report for the month of November. Okay, retail and wholesale electric revenues. 2 hurricanes, one in October, September, October, and then one really unplanned in November all hurricanes are unplanned, but November is pretty late to be having a hurricane. They did impact our electric retail revenues. Weather is mild. We do anticipate a little cooler weather this week. But, we balance this against base revenues, fuel revenues. So you can see here that we're trailing revenues primarily from milder weather, which does help the customers have lower bills. But offsetting this, we do have lower expenses as we have been focused on the hurricane. So we have some timing delays related to our expenses. So they help balance the shortfall in revenue. Again, also on the water, chilled water and other services, the delayed startup of the GOA project, which was originally anticipated to start in fiscal year 22, did start in November. So there's a little bit of a drag on revenues there. I don't have anything else really.
Comments, questions?
No, that's good.
All
I'm
right,
good.
sounds good. Mr. Browder, do you have, thank you very much. Mr. Browder, do you have any legal issues to report?
I do not.
All right. You were busy with GOA. All right. We are now to the general appearances section. I do have one card here. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak here, Paula, to your knowledge? All right, very good. So, Mr. Blount, will you please come up to the podium here and let us know what you have? I'll just please ask you to state your name and your whether you're an OUC customer. Limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, as you always do. Commissioners will take your comments under advisement. We'll direct any follow-up questions to our officers or staff, and if needed, we'll contact you with a response to any questions you may be asking once we've verified that our response is correct. So please.
My name is Jonathan Sebastian Blount, and I am a proud OUC customer for many, many years. And really, this is really kind of a remarks for the good of the order, because I just realized something recently that I have the privilege of living in Orlando. Look at the advances that OUC is making. Look at what you do. I mean, this new solar project. I mean, the You're Not Alone project. I mean, it's emblematic of the spirit of this organization. And the spirit of this organization, really, really mirrors a spirit of Orlando. When I came here, we were demonstrating to have the Martin Luther King parade come out of Paramore and be on Main Street. Well, look at where it is. There were really no visible black employees in 1994 anywhere in the city, and we had to petition with Vernice to try to get blacks to be able to have meetings in City Hall. But look at it now. I mean, I was at the Chocolate Nutcracker, and that same night the Orlando Philharmonic was in one hall, and the Teen USA pageant was in another. I mean, and it was just a phenomenal experience. And it just said to me, and right outside was the Fusion Fest. So it just said to me that Orlando is really a world-class city. And everything that it does it in a spirit of excellence. Mayor Dyer said, judge me by what I do in Paramore. Well, they ought to rename Paramore Dyer City or something, because I will tell you, when you go to Creative Village and you know that was basically a vacuous, empty nothingness, and look at it now, it's a whole new city. Orlando is really, really very, very special place to be in, and OUC is just really and truly in the vanguard of the spirit of inclusion, of community engagement, of support for the community and so forth. So, really and truly, this is just, from my personal experience and also from my observations. So Mr. Bullock and Denise and Lisa and Queen especially, who really, really propel the community engagement efforts, I just want to say a public thank you. And I want you all to hopefully continue to exhibit this leadership, and I sincerely hope that it continues to resonate with the rest of the community. But Mayor Dyer, I just want to say to you how proud I am to be a citizen of your city and to have lived here under your tenure and your leadership. And please just keep on keeping on.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Blount, very much for the support and for for being here and for sharing your thoughts. It's important to keep us all on track. Thank you for that. All right, we're going to move forward, I believe, with General Manager's comments. Mr. Bullock?
Yes, thank you, President. I do have one item, Luz Aviles. I'd like Luz to come up, and she's going to give an overview on energy and water efficiency. You remember she was here a year ago giving an update, and she's going to follow up. So Luz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Clint. President Groves, Commissioners, Mayor Dyer, thank you for this opportunity. So I am going to start, while they bring this presentation up, I'm going to start with a few slides that you've seen before, just to remind you, since it's been, I think it was August that I was here last year. So where this project is at in terms of energy and water efficiency. So let's see if I get this clicker right. Clicker right. Here we go. So you've seen this slide before, our commitment in 2020 in terms of financial commitment over 10 years to $30 million, our 1% of retail sales, which we did achieve again in fiscal year 22. In terms of energy savings, our efficiency delivered improvements that were completed in 2021 and we'll continue to build on those now. I'll give you a little more information later on in this presentation about that work. And then the results of the in-depth study, which I'm here to provide you today. You also saw this slide before, which was the focus of what the proposal we sent out to find a partner to help us in the study. I won't spend too much time here, but just to highlight some of our commitments here included looking at how do we remove barriers to participation in our programs, how do we look at the market potential and cost effectiveness of our programs, how do we expand marketing strategies, have better education and outreach and participation in our programs. And we also had a cross-functional internal team participated in this with various departments represented, but we also included external folks such as the City of Orlando, Orange County, and the City of St. Cloud representatives from each of those areas to participate in this process with us. And that was real important to make sure we had, real comprehensive involvement and participation throughout the project. This timeline is updated since the last time you saw it because the project did take a little bit longer than we had anticipated for a couple of reasons. We selected MCR as our partner, MCR Performance Solutions. They started the work and then we hit the holiday season and we didn't want to do community engagement, stakeholder engagement meetings during that time. So we did extend the time frame between December and March. We added some additional sessions after the new year in order to make sure we had maximum participation. And I'll give you some results from those meetings in a little bit. We did receive the final report from MCR in March and started executing against it in August of this year. So these are some of the recommendations provided by MCR. So MCR reviewed our programs in terms of savings, participation. They leveraged other data that was available to them that we had, and also leveraged the City of Orlando energy burden study that was done. They used industry organization data, nonprofit data. We used Public Service Commission data, Energy Commission data. So a lot of information that was out there for us to really understand how do our programs stand up against them and what are the opportunities we have available to improve our programs. So in those findings, it included some administrative items like improving our tracking, reporting, and collaboration of the program, the information we had available to make sure we were understanding how participation was happening, where the limitations were, things of that nature. So there's some administrative changes to those items we're going to make. They recommended to create a plan for measurement and verification. We use deemed savings for most of our programs, but there's an opportunity there to really enhance how we're looking at the impact of the programs in terms of effectiveness, program analysis, cost, and things of that nature. Recognizing the full value of efficiency programs beyond non-energy related benefits. So those could be environmental, those could be health, things like that. So the holistic view of energy savings. Expanding partnerships and offering more turnkey solutions. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of insight related to partnerships. So how can we leverage the city's programs, Orlando's, Orange County's, or St. Cloud, or other vendors in the community, other partners in the communities, to really create programs and deliver simple solutions to the customer, making it easier for them, and making the dollars go much further, right? Including increasing the effectiveness of residential, multifamily, and small commercial programs by eliminating ineffective ones, modifying existing ones, and creating new ones. So this is really about making it, again, simpler for the customers. When they're looking at our programs, if there's too many choices, too many things, sometimes that, turns people away or makes it more complicated for them to understand what efficiency measures they should participate in. So with some good recommendations around that. And also addressing and removing barriers identified for low-income programs, the consideration of simpler requirements and broader offerings. We really started understanding in their analysis, some of our requirements are difficult to understand when there's language barriers, when there's requirements that customers may feel like they don't understand the need for the requirement. And then the multiple steps could be a detractor as well for them participating. If there's lots of things they have to turn in, like receipts and fill out this form and wait another day and have somebody go back out there, send some pictures, things like that. So we're going to simplify and streamline our processes. Continue to do so. All right. Then we also had a component of this analysis MCR did for us was hosting stakeholder engagement meetings. And we put those groups into really 3 buckets. One was government, community, government partners, environmental, and community. So there was individuals represented there from our community, like the City of Orlando, Orange County, St. Cloud, as I've mentioned. We had other folks beyond the 3 that you saw listed as being part of the study. But we also had environmental groups like BPS Consulting. We had NAACP, Poder Latinx, Clio Institute, and many others. In terms of community partners, we had folks like the Hispanic Chamber, we had the African American Chamber, the Indian Chamber, we had the National Entrepreneur Center housed, and a few others participated and gave us input regarding how they wanted information to be gathered from them, how they wanted to see themselves involved in the process, and how we continue to partner with them as we continue to expand our programs. And so some of the themes we found here was really it's important to cultivate community relationships by including them in the process. So it's not just sharing the outcomes, but they really want to be involved in the planning and in the outreach efforts, the public engagement, using them to get to our customers was important to them. They want to simplify the information exchange by communicating in simpler terms. So really them being a partner for us in interpreting the information that we're trying to put out there in the community. Certainly, they're asking for an increase in transparency related to program design, participation, and impact. Tailoring efforts to targeted communities, which may include the approach we use, the partners we use for program delivery, and the messaging. So again, for example, if we're in a Hispanic community, maybe using Latinx as a partner to get to that community is appropriate, so we have more participation and understanding of what's available to the customers. And then certainly building trust between stakeholder groups and OUC. And one of the things that we've done so far as an example is when we hired Derek, who I believe is out here today, hiring Derek's a public relations manager. One of the first things that he's done on the job is meet with some of these community organizations, introduce himself, and help them understand how he can be a bridge and help with the collaboration between us and them. So we're happy about that. So in terms of next steps, so in the short term, what we started with is reviewing our efficiency delivered programs. For many reasons, it was the right thing to do. I don't know that I pushed the button, but there we go. Thank you. We started with reviewing our efficiency delivered program. Here at OUC, we consider that our limited income program. And so what we're looking at is how do we build on that and expand perhaps the measures involved in that program, the people that have access to it. Right now, it is only owner-focused for houses, but how do we allow renters to participate in this? How do we allow small commercial customers to participate in it? And as you change the makeup of the customers that can participate, you've got to look at the measures as well in the program design. So we're starting that work. We've collaborated with Research America. They're a current research partner that has done work for us in the past. And we're looking at them to leverage this analysis and the recommendations done by MCR to do the next set of stakeholder engagement meetings so that we can expand and build on our efficiency delivered program. We've started the work with them. They will be out in the community doing the stakeholder meetings in mid to late January. And so that'll involve a new set of stakeholders to participate. So that'll be the first body of work that we do to complete now in fiscal year 23 to modify those efficiency delivered programs. We'll certainly come back with information about that because we will have to update our partner on the efficiency delivered program to deliver the changes. In terms of the long term, What we're looking at is formalizing our reputation and stakeholder management plan. And so this was led by marketing and new products. You'll remember Janice was here last month and presented that to you all as an agenda item for approval. So that is more of a long-term strategy of how do we continue to engage our stakeholders in the process, and efficiency programs truly are going to be a part of that conversation. That'll continue throughout 2023 and beyond. And then in terms of ongoing efforts, we will continue to look at the other recommendations provided by MCR. We'll look at them, at prioritizing them through our operational planning process. So that'll be for fiscal year 24 and beyond. And also reviewing our calculations on energy savings, so making sure we're looking at the data properly. And then the considerations to strategic planning measures will be looked at through fiscal year 25. All right. And then just to give you also a brief update on the water conservation side, at the same time, we were working with a consultant of record, Black & Veatch, to help us look at our water programs. And so the objectives of this one were similar, a little smaller scope, but we're similar to our energy ones in terms of looking at our metrics on how we're calculating water savings. We were looking at program design. We were looking at recommendations to expand, build, eliminate unnecessary ones. And again, how do we expand community participation and involvement in the programs? We had another cross-functional team, internal to OUC with different experience set to help us look at these programs. Black & Veatch was the partner that we selected for this. They provided their analysis and did complete all the tasks that we expected from them, and their final report was delivered to us in February of this year. Their recommendations included modifications to existing programs, so they provided us really improved and more detailed communications to our customers in terms of data. You know, with water, it's really about getting them to turn off that faucet or stop that leak. And so really enhancing our communication efforts and methods in order to get reaction out of a customer. That's an example of some of the things they really elaborated on in our programs. Reviewing our rate structure and rebate calculations is going to be important in this process, and also the inclusion of additional measures. You know, with water, we have, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 measures right now for water, but we're looking at expanding that so we get more participation from residential and commercial customers as well for water savings. And then the addition of new programs also includes leveraging partnerships and really a greater focus on industries and sectors, which is more important for our commercial customers, and getting them to reduce their water usage. And then administrative recommendations as well in terms of improvements to reporting, data tracking, and program evaluation. One of the opportunities we're going to take, since we're already bringing stakeholders in to talk about energy efficiency, we're going to take those opportunities to ask some water relevant questions, program design questions, while we have the customers with us and talking to us. So we'll leverage that Research America work to expand on for water. And then we'll have these, similar to what you saw on the energy side, we'll prioritize the recommendations given by Black & Veatch through our operational planning process, making sure our calculations and water savings are updated. We've already made some changes to some of the calculations, but there's definitely more that we need to do that are taking a little more effort and time to implement. And then certainly, again, the strategic plan impacts for these changes through 2025, the end of our strategic planning period. And that is all. Any questions?
Looks good. Any questions?
No, I'm good.
No, I'm just very pleased that we talked about water conservation.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
President, I just have a couple comments to add here in closing. I would like to acknowledge Commissioner Lee, Greg Lee, even though he's not sitting here with us today. Obviously, when he made the announcement, it was at the end of the meeting, but certainly 9.5 years as a commissioner is commendable, and we really, I'm speaking on behalf of the entire management team. We just want to thank Greg for all his leadership, his support, community connector, if that's a title. I think that he was very connected with the community. It's great for the board to have that level of involvement, and you know, we certainly got a lot of good feedback from him and customers that would approach him, but it's important to be involved in the community. He certainly led OUC through transition when our previous CEO retired, and so that's always a big lift as a president. But again, all the times and the meetings and the efforts, his fabric is certainly left upon the OUC on 9.5 years of work that he's done. I appreciate that he's trustworthy and supportive. I appreciate his friendship and honesty to all of us. So again, I just want to, on the record, say thank you to Commissioner Lee for all his support. And then lastly, I just want to wish the commissioners a safe and happy holidays and a happy new year. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone in January. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, Commissioners. Commissioner Calvet?
Okay.
Any thoughts today?
Oh, always. No, please about the GOA agreement. I mean, I remember at the beginning, because of course, knowing the players on the other side. So it was great because like I said before, it was a win-win. So very pleased that happened. Floating solar, that's very interesting. I'm assuming the gators are not eating the panels, so that's the only concern there. And really looking forward next month to welcoming Roger Chapin to the commission. And with that, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all.
Thank you. Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what was said. I'm thrilled. In the interviews that I did with the 3 candidates, they all said yourself and my energy made them excited.
Scared?
To be considered for the board. And they read in between our comments that this is an exciting board. And that's a tribute to you all. So I just want to commend you for a great year. What we saw today, as the song says, the beat goes on. And so you guys are doing great, and I encourage you to continue in the strategic direction and impact that you're having. I'd like to echo Mr. Blunt's comments. My wife and I, as some of you know, and let me digress a minute and personally thank as many of you as possible for your cards, condolences, and words during my mom's passing. But while we were up in Detroit, we just got back yesterday. I want to tell you, my wife said, Orlando is blessed to have Mayor Buddy Dyer. And I'm like, well, do you know something I don't? But her comment came when we saw the decay and heard some of the news of Detroit. And just driving around the city and looking at the abandonment and the destruction and hearing the lack of strategy and strategic approach, she gave credit to our mayor and looked at as well as the city of Orlando and what a blessing it is to be here. And when she hears OUC, she ties that right in. So I echo what you say, and my hats off to our mayor, and as well as my hats off to you, Clint, for all that you guys do. So team, again, Merry Christmas. Looking for a great new year, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Mayor?
First, thank you for the kind words. I won't be able to get into my own hat. My head getting bigger. So I just have a couple things. We had State of the Downtown last Wednesday on Linda Ferroni's birthday. We were celebrating that on December 7th. So I thank OUC always being the lead sponsor for the DOP for that particular event. We actually had very nice weather for
Perfect.
That event. I remember the most fun one we had was when Linda was in your position and the wind was blowing about, I don't know, 30 or 40 miles an hour, and her hair was straight out behind her. It was pretty fabulous. Hopefully there are some of those pictures somewhere.
It's electric.
Now I'll go Google it.
Second, I want to publicly thank Commissioner Lee for his service. It's 9.5 years. Yeah, he came on in the middle of the dean's prior term and has definitely been a very positive force in this organization. And I look forward to Roger serving in a very similar role in terms of connection to the community. And if you want to have things spiced up a little bit, Roger is likely to spice things up a little bit. Floating solar, totally supportive of that. I just get excited every time we talk about that because I was always jealous when we flew out of really Denver and they had all those big solar arrays up next to the blue horse with the blazing eyes, and everybody thinks Denver's so sustainable just because they have solar arrays. So I love having our floating solar array to remind people of the same. And I'm just thinking traffic pattern, maybe you'll be able to see that particular array when you're landing or taking off at the airport as well. And then I've seen both sides of the transaction with GOA, so that's great partnership for both organizations. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a safe New Year, but also remind you that we have a winter or Christmas market at Lake Eola Park that is pretty fabulous, and it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it'll go through December 23rd. So we lit the Christmas tree a couple Fridays ago, I guess, and it's about 60 or 70 feet. And if you haven't been out there, the fountain and the Christmas tree are synchronized in terms of music and lights and stuff, so that's pretty cool. And then we change out the vendors at the Christmas market every day. So you could go on Friday, and Saturday it'll be different, and then it'll be different again on Sunday. So that's pretty cool, and I encourage you to do that and have a very, very happy holiday season.
Thank you for that. All right, well, I won't ditto everywhere. Maybe I'll point out that I won't forget the lion and the gazelle story for a very long time. That's great. I'm going to use it myself. So thank Mr. Sims for that story. Greg Lee, what a great example, and a bar he set here for just thoughtful consideration and engagement on this board. Just great role model for me to follow for sure. And then thank you for the tip about the Lake Eola Christmas market. That's fabulous. I'm also looking forward to working with Roger Chapman. He was exciting on the phone. He knows a lot about the city. And wishing everybody a very safe and happy holiday. Thank you, everybody. Without objection, the meeting is adjourned at 3:34 in the afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Stick my head in this reception for a minute.
Yeah, good.
That'd be great.
What's the
That's
truck?
right.